What's up, guys? Welcome back. This is Anime Crossover. You'll be watching What If Naruto Was Married to the Goddess of Death in Marvel Part 3. Now, let's begin. It didn't matter whether Odin really intended Hela to be the monarch of gods. Only one thing was certain. That is, Odin must annihilate Naruto. This mortal ventured to taint Odin's blood. He'd have to die. Odin would be unfit to govern Asgard if he had not died. As for begging Hela to murder Naruto, this was Odin's condition. He had previously been unable to forgive Hela for her disobedience. This had always been a sore spot in his heart. Hela needed to do something if she wanted to calm him down, and murdering Naruto would be really beneficial. If Hela actually done this, it would show that she had forgiven him. The most crucial thing was to push Hela to murder Naruto, which was certainly a smart method of killing people. Odin believed Hela would readily accept this condition. Hela had a tremendous fascination with the role of king of gods, which Odin was convinced of. According to Odin's own perspective, if he informed Hela that she needed to murder a certain person in order to become God's monarch, then Hela would do it regardless of who the individual was. Hela's personality was like this, and Odin knew her too well. After hearing Odin's remarks, Frigga smiled wryly. In actuality, Frigga had no idea if Hela would murder Naruto, as Odin predicted. Frigga could be certain of one thing: Hela would do what Odin commanded. Whether it was for Naruto or Hela, it was a form of murder and punishment. Hela had been lonely for much of her life, walking alongside the murdering all the way, until she met someone she really adored. Why did Odin have to separate them? Was the aristocratic blood of Odin's family really more significant than Hela? For the first time, Frigga felt weird in the presence of Odin. Finally, Frigga sighed and let it go. After all, it's Odin's father and daughter company, and she didn't bother to muddle things up. As for Hela's final decision, she wasn't sure, and she couldn't guess. Odin's plea to Hela was not yet apparent. After a time of indulgence, Hela lay weakly on the bed, staring at Naruto with bitter eyes. "Don't you know how to put this beast away? My waist is almost shattered." Regardless, Hela's eyes were more like those of a newborn. "My dear, I want to tell you one thing." Hela immediately spoke to Naruto. Her demeanor abruptly grew serious. Naruto blinked, motioning for Hela to speak. Naruto had predicted what Hela was going to say. Perhaps Hela was planning a confrontation with him. In reality, it was correct. Hela actually did want to have a battle with Naruto. Hela had expected that Naruto already knew her identity. Perhaps Naruto still doesn't realize what she did earlier, but he'd figure it out eventually, right? Instead of letting Naruto find out later, she should confess herself early. What about Naruto's readiness to accept her as a wicked woman? Hela still had some faith in her heart. Her connection with Naruto was not fabricated. Hela strongly believed this. "Actually, my actual identity is the goddess of death of Asgard, Hela." Hela ultimately revealed her identity. Then Hela gave Naruto a troubled glance, expecting to observe his attitude. "Wow, I knew my wife was a goddess, but I hadn't expected her to be the goddess of death. This is very nice. Are you satisfied with my reaction?" Naruto said to Hela in a joking tone, and then winked at her. Hela felt compelled to hurl the hammer after seeing Naruto's embarrassing photo. She also realized that Naruto had known her true identity for a long time. However, it wasn't the goal. The point was about Hela's history. Was Naruto prepared to embrace an evil lady with murder on her hands? Hela had no bottom line. Although Naruto was unlikely to desert her because to her background, Hela was nonetheless nervous. She was terrified that she might lose this connection due of her history. Finally, after a big breath, Hela informed Naruto about her background. She was determined to confess, hoping for Naruto's mercy. It was always preferable to confess than to be discovered by Naruto. Naruto did not speak. Instead, he listened to Hela silently. He had to admit that Hela's background had stunned him. Hela is portrayed as malevolent in the movie. She was quite calm, although Hela's actions were seldom discussed. Only from Hela's lips did Naruto learn more about her background. After hearing Hela's tale, Naruto's initial impression was that this lady was too harsh. Hela was an outright killer. She had conducted a single-person massacre of a civilization more than once. To be honest, Naruto had a tough time combining the deadly Hela with the suddenly concerned Hela. In addition, Hela was a careerist. In order to become Asgard's god ruler, she revolted. During the uprising, Hela even slaughtered Asgard's finest Valkyrie soldiers, an appropriate filial daughter. However, Hela was an even poorer person. While their friends enjoyed their parents' affection, Hela was already studying how to murder the enemy more effectively. While the other females were hoping for a sweet love, Hela was already leading the army into battle. It might be argued that Odin is mostly responsible for Hela's transformation. Odin was responsible for raising Hela into a huge monster. Hela may possibly be described as the younger version of Odin. Hela was the most similar to Odin among Odin's offspring. After discussing her background, Hela bowed her head rather than looking into Naruto's eyes. She was worried Naruto would forsake her because of her background, but Naruto would not and could not do it. Regardless of Hela's background, Naruto was certain of one thing. That is, Hela was his wife, and she belonged to him totally. So, as Hela waited for Naruto to yell at her, he softly held her. "If you do not let me down, I will never let you down. Even if I am an enemy of the world, I will definitely stand by of you, because I believe that you will also stand by my side." A decent relationship was never achieved only through the efforts of one partner. That's not a sensation. It's offers. Naruto could accept Hela and do anything for her. Naruto was likewise certain that Hela would give up everything for him. They loved and supported each other. They became a family, and their love for one another was instilled in their blood. As the old adage goes, if you don't fail me, I will not fail you. Naruto never asked Hela to do anything for him throughout the year they met and fell in love. Hela was the same, even if Naruto's skill might aid her much. They really liked one another and would gladly aid each other. This was the primary reason Naruto could keep his heart and disregard the strangers. Because of Hela, Naruto's fantasies about his lover had been gratified. Hela had expected Naruto's response, despite the fact that she knew her history would not change Naruto's affections for her. But Hela was nevertheless touched in this moment. Hela has had a long life, beginning with her birth and continuing to the present. But no one had ever trusted her like Naruto, for whatever reason. This type of complete faith pleased Hela, but it moved her much more. Hela's prior anxieties and worries had melted away, like snow in the light. "I believe you." Hela didn't speak much. She just gazed into Naruto's eyes and spoke kindly. If it wasn't for the two of them acting so insane last night, if Hela's body hadn't been so exhausted, something would have occurred. But this wasn't crucial. Sometimes life requires not just passion, but also simplicity. Naruto and Hela didn't move. They were silently enjoying the serenity at the time. Naruto expected Hela's confession, so it didn't come as a surprise. Overall, this seemed more like an incident in the lives of the two. Aside from making the two's friendship more encrypted and intertwined, nothing else changed. Naruto would continue to make meals for Hela on a daily basis, and he would relish the other party's timidity after assaulting her. Hela had not altered much, either. When faced with Naruto's proximity, she maintained a helpless expression as well as a lustful gaze. However, following a complete confession, Hela grew happy. At the very least, she would periodically look away from the visitor and make fun of Naruto. Although Naruto grasped the chance to be a bully in most circumstances, both of them were content. While Naruto and Hela's friendship grew swiftly, the rest of the world was experiencing seismic shifts. The narrative of Iron Man 2 started after Tony Stark was assaulted on the racing circuit. Tony was even more devastated by the fact that his time was running short. Palladium metal toxicity nearly killed Tony. If a new element to replace palladium was not discovered, Tony would die young. Despite knowing about the issue, Naruto did not interfere. Because Tony's father had planned everything, Tony would finally overcome the challenge and complete his transformation from a small kid to a superhero. It may be argued that Tony's near-death experience was the driving force for his change. Naruto did not want to tamper too much with the narrative. He was more of a spectator, an audience member, seeing things unfold in the Marvel universe up close. Those observers across the universe were identical, just as they were in the Marvel universe. Naruto was also interested in some other news. Captain America is the first superhero born in the United States. After resting in the glacier for almost a half-century, he resurfaced in front of the whole globe. More significantly, Captain America's presence carried with it another very essential thing: the cosmic Rubik's Cube Tesseract. Naruto was familiar with the narrative. Therefore, he knew that the cosmic Rubik's Cube contained a space stone. The unearthed Captain America and the Tesseract marked the Marvel Universe's formal entry into the heroic age. Following that, superheroes would arise on a grand scale, like a blowout. The most thrilling time in the Marvel world has just started. At the same moment, a specific purple sweet potato who was still roaming throughout the cosmos began his path of destiny. Thanos, the insane titan of the eternal race. He was eager to obtain all 6 Infinity Stones and realize his lifelong dream. A beautiful and terrible period was approaching. Odin once again drew Hela into his delusion. Looking at the face she despised the most, Hela struggled to keep a sword from piercing it. Hela knew she couldn't harm Odin here, so she didn't want to waste her efforts. "What are you doing here?" Hela said coldly. She felt nothing for this father. He was a despicable person. Hela truly believed it. "If I said, I'd let you return to Asgard, how would you decide?" Odin's first words surprised Hela a bit. She couldn't believe Odin had said this. Was it feasible that Odin was quite old? Was he confused? Scheming? When Odin was normal, he would not speak this type of phrase. "Are you asking me for mercy? Begging me to spare you?" Hela was perplexed and could not understand why Odin had come here. "No, I just need a good heir. At the moment, you are the most appropriate successor for me. If you can pass my test, I will give you a chance. As for the past, I can selectively forget it." Odin told this to Hela with sincerity. The distinction between truth and falsehood was unclear. Hela was, at the very least, somewhat persuaded. Because Thor was so terrible. Thor wasn't horrible, he was just too bad to be the God King's successor. Hela did not meet Thor via Hydra, but she knew a lot about him. Hela did pay attention to this unknown brother for a spell. However, after seeing Thor's numerous actions on Earth, Hela had to accept that Thor's head was merely made up of muscles and lacked a brain. Because of this, Hela had a little amount of faith in Odin. After all, compared to an inept successor, Hela was clearly more suited. Odin realized Hela was affected when she became quiet. She didn't agree, but she didn't object, right? That was sufficient. So Odin reiterated, "The exam is really pretty easy. You may easily do it with your skills. Kill the mortal that is with you." He tainted Odin's noble blood. Odin finally declared his test after all this time. "Hela, aren't you obsessed with the king's throne? Then I'll give you this chance. It only requires you to kill a mortal, which is not difficult for you at all, right?" Hela, who had been quiet at first, transformed totally after hearing these words, which surprised Odin. After experiencing the horrific murderous intent, even Odin frowned. Odin couldn't comprehend why Hela had such a strong murderous intent after hearing about his condition. Odin considered his situation to be reasonable. Think about it. You may become a god king by just killing a mortal. What a great deal for the obsessed Hela. Unfortunately, Odin had no idea how much Naruto meant to Hela just now. "Odin, are you aware? He is the sole bright spot in my long, dismal existence. I can give up everything for him, even being the 9 realms god king." Hela's aura was completely liberated, and the previous goddess of death returned. Odin was oppressed by the dreadful divine force. What made Odin feel even more fantastic was Naruto's significance to Hela. Is this the only light? Just that mortal? Although he owed Hela and was disappointed in her, Odin was now very envious. Damn, he was a parent, and his daughter considered him an enemy. In contrast, a damn mortal occupied his daughter's whole heart. For the first time, he felt frustrated and lost. But, more crucially, his deadly intent against Naruto grew. This filthy mortal polluted both Odin's noble blood and Hela's love. Before Odin could respond, Hela continued, "I wish to be the monarch of the 9 realms. That is the position I deserve. But I will not kowtow to you. I shall utilize my skills to reclaim what rightfully belongs to me." The significance of Hela was evident. She desired to be the god king of the 9 realms, utilizing her own resources and might. This was the second declaration of war. At this point, Odin had given up on Hela. This youngster had entirely lost her affections for him and had become Asgard's main worry. "You will regret this," Odin remarked coldly, then shattered the illusion.
Hela didn't care.
The really decisive struggle was never in the illusion. As for Asgard, she felt obligated to return there and reclaim what she had lost. Rebellion was a beautiful tradition in Odin's family, and Hela inherited it brilliantly. In truth, Odin's position as king of the gods was not earned in a fair way. Few people realized that Odin had two brothers, an elder brother and a younger sibling. Odin was not the first successor to God's throne. His older brother was. Only Odin's potential caused tension for the post of ruler of gods. Then the violent war for the crown started. The son killed his father, and the younger brother murdered his older brother. Odin's older brother murdered Odin's father, implying that the previous god king assumed the status of god king. Then Odin murdered his older brother and seized the throne of the king of gods. In comparison to what Odin performed, this kind of operation could only be considered simple. After returning to reality, Hela saw Naruto standing in front of her.
"I'm fine,"
Hela said after glancing at Naruto's anxious expression. Hela sneered as she remembered her last discussion with Odin. He truly expected her to murder Naruto for the post of King of Gods, which was quite amusing. Hela would sooner slay Odin than become the monarch of the gods. It was difficult for her to assault Naruto. However, when it came to the role of King of Gods, Hela had plans to return to Asgard. Odin had sat on the king's seat long enough. It was time for a change. Thinking about this, Hela and Naruto exchanged ideas. She no longer needed to conceal after revealing her identity to Naruto. She was capable of speaking her opinion. After hearing Hela's intention to return to Asgard, Naruto nodded and did not object. It was exactly accurate. He also needed to pay an account with Odin. Naruto had a nasty temper. Anyone who attacked him was his adversary, and he would respond with a counterattack. Odin was no exception. Naruto could not let him go after he revealed his homicidal plan to him. It's also time to pay your accounts with Odin. The two couples hit it off right away and decided to go to Asgard and ask Odin for an account. Hela was destined to succeed as king of the gods. She thought that after lying inactive for so long, she has the power to confront Odin. In fact, Hela, who could crush Thor's hammer with her own hands, was fully capable of presenting a serious danger to Odin. Odin was very powerful, but Hela was not weak either. By the way, if you're the king of gods, what am I? Naruto suddenly thought of a question and asked Hela. Anyway, Naruto had no clue about the role of king of gods, and he had no desire to be a leader. However, his current posture was quite uncomfortable. The king's lover? When Hela heard what Naruto said, a smirk formed on the corner of her lips. "My dear, you are my queen," Hela replied with a smirk. Thor felt really unfortunate. He was thrilled once he arrived on Earth. Only lately did he get a message from Asgard requesting that he return to Asgard immediately. The most significant fact was that Odin saw all he accomplished on Earth. This also indicated that Odin was seeking for him to settle debts. Thor respected and feared his father. But it didn't matter. Thor had been beaten up from boyhood. Thor was accustomed to it. Besides, didn't he become involved in a major disaster? Didn't he just play a tiny bit? Wouldn't Odin be furious if he didn't want to come back? With this idea, Thor said goodbye to his love Jane Foster and his Avengers teammates. Then he approached Heimdall personally and requested him to unlock the Rainbow Bridge. Soon, Heimdall dropped the Rainbow Bridge, effectively returning Thor to Asgard. Thor quickly recognized how bad the situation was. Odin was both furious and unhappy with what he'd done on Earth. He was disappointed by his son's nasty criticism. Odin, who did not have a worthy successor, was depressed and concerned about Asgard's future. Even Frigga, Thor's loving mother who had always adored him, was dissatisfied this time around. Frigga never questioned Thor's abilities. In truth, Thor was a nice guy. He had courage, strength, and honesty. Thor was a decent guy, but he was not an appropriate successor to the monarch. He was too innocent. Even if Thor just had a third of Loki's black belly, Frigga and Odin would be pleased. In truth, Thor grew up in the future. Thor in Thor 3 has evolved into a competent ruler. Unfortunately, the cost of this transition was too high. His parents perished, his house was devastated, and the people of Asgard were murdered. With the growth created in such a disaster, one can only picture how difficult Thor will be in the future. But with Naruto, Thor's future has a lot more variables. The future may be less unpleasant than in the original novel, or it may be more bleak. Father, did I do something wrong again? Thor, unaware that his life was going to become tragic, glanced to Odin and questioned. Odin sighed, closed his eyes, and refocused his mind. Then he stared at Thor again. Your matter, I will settle with you later. As for now, you go assemble the soldiers. The enemy is approaching. Odin spoke to Thor. The individual he was referring to was undoubtedly Hela. After the previous illusion came to an end, Odin was well aware that Hela would inevitably make her way back to Asgard. And it will not be too late. She would surely exploit him while he was still alive. Odin understood that Hela's thirst for revenge outweighed her desire to become the ruler of the gods. That's why he reached out to Thor again, simply to greet the arrival of Hela. Regarding Thor, one can anticipate his future growth. Asgard, previously known for its immense glory, was now confronted with a significant crisis. It is worth mentioning that karma always yields results. During Asgard's preparations for a significant battle, Naruto escorted Hela to Kamatage. Indeed, he sought out the Supreme Sorcerer. Yao was not surprised by the arrival of Naruto and his wife. She consistently displayed a composed and unhurried demeanor, exuding a wise and sage-like disposition. May I ask why two esteemed guests are seeking my presence? The Ancient One held a deep admiration for the duo of Naruto and Hela. Indeed, Naruto had previously saved the Earth. She was the sole individual privy to this information. Mage, it's clear that your expertise in space magic is exceptional. I would like to request a favor from you this time. I hope you gain access to Asgard. I understand it can be inconvenient. Naruto told Yao. Despite Naruto's initial negative impression of Yao, he recognized the importance of maintaining a professional attitude when seeking assistance. And regarding Yao, it must be acknowledged that she was a genuine unsung hero who deserved utmost respect. Looking at it from any perspective, uncovering the mysterious past of the Ancient One proved to be quite challenging. Asgard, are you preparing for battle? Yao observed Hela beside him and speculated about her identity. Undoubtedly, she accurately deduced the intentions behind Hela and Naruto. This was for Odin, the ruler of Asgard. Actually, this was quite typical. The Supreme Sorcerer was also aware of Asgard's previous rebellion. Indeed, Hela was sealed on the earth back then. In addition, Naruto confronted Odin, much to the lack of surprise from Master Yao. Odin had encountered her previously, seeking to eliminate this mortal. Yao declined and made a commitment to Odin to impart a valuable lesson to this mortal. However, Yao had ulterior motives and intended to manipulate Naruto into owing her a favor. Regarding Yao's relationship with Naruto, he had not lost his sanity. There's no need to worry about this matter. It has no connection to the Earth, Ancient One. Hela also rose to her feet and addressed Yao. The most efficient method of traveling from Earth to Asgard was, naturally, via the Rainbow Bridge. However, Asgard refuses to teleport the two of them there, so they must explore alternative options. For instance, seeking assistance from the Supreme Sorcerer was a wise decision. Very well, as you desire. Yao readily agreed to send Naruto and Hela to Asgard without any hesitation. As for whether this would concern Odin, Yao didn't care. Yao was aware that Odin, just like herself, would eventually pass away, bringing an end to their era. Before Naruto and his wife, Yao extended a massive portal. Across the portal stood the majestic Rainbow Bridge in Asgard. Once they passed through this portal, Naruto and Hela would be able to reach Asgard. This ability was incredibly helpful. If you're interested, you can come to learn magic from me at any time. I assure you that the commitment I made to you is always upheld. Observing Naruto's thoughts, Yao grinned and addressed him. This was Yao's plan all along. Although Naruto couldn't become a member of Kamatage, it was important for her to establish a strong relationship. Naruto was an individual with great strength. It is more advantageous to maintain friendly relationships rather than foster animosity. If I have the chance, I will definitely seek your advice. Naruto also agreed and said, However, he was determined to seize any opportunity to expand his knowledge. He would opt for the Space Stone, which happened to be quite convenient as well. The Space Stone possessed superior strength, was more user-friendly, and had the ability to teleport over greater distances. Perhaps in the future, he could gather 6 Infinity Stones for amusement. Naturally, those were considerations for the future. Naruto and Hela acted without hesitation. They entered the portal and found themselves in the realm of Asgard. "We are determined to confront you, Odin." At the Rainbow Bridge, Thor patiently awaited. Before him, a portal began to open. Soon, 2 individuals traversed the portal and arrived on the Rainbow Bridge. What about Naruto? What is the purpose of your presence here?" Thor was taken aback when he saw the 2 individuals emerging from the portal, mistaking them for enemies at first. Unexpectedly, Naruto and Hela emerged from the portal, catching him off guard. Remember, Naruto met Thor at a party thrown by Tony Stark. Naruto discovered Hela's true identity through Thor's revelation. Upon encountering Thor, Naruto found himself quite taken aback. It would make sense for his brother-in-law to be on Earth, wouldn't it? Do you have any familiarity with him? Hela also experienced a slight sense of unease. How did Naruto come to know her brother? It appeared that they had a friendly relationship. Was his lack of intelligence not contagious, right? Her question served as a reminder to Naruto to avoid wasting time with foolish individuals. "I had the opportunity to meet him once. He is a colleague." Naruto provided limited explanation as he anticipated the end of their friendship. He had a high probability of becoming Thor's deadly adversary. At this time, Hela no longer held back. Upon her return to Asgard, Hela experienced a renewed sense of boundless power. As she remained on this land, she could consistently enhance her abilities. Hela confidently gathered her long, dark green hair and elegantly secured them above her head, commanding the attention of everyone present. Then, an intriguingly shaped crown materialized on Hela's head. Even Hela's attire had transformed from a modest black dress to a sleek suit of black armor. Hela always had a fondness for the color black. This is an accurate depiction of Hela's appearance, and it was a side of her that Naruto had never seen before, displaying a level of professionalism that was unfamiliar to him. The true Hela, the formidable goddess of death from Asgard. Feeling the immense pressure from Hela, Thor's heart also grew resolute. At this moment, he deduced the identity of Hela. His mysterious sister had become Asgard's most formidable adversary, an individual who sought to overthrow the monarchy. Where can I find Odin? Why isn't he coming out? Could it be that he is feeling fearful? Upon her return to the familiar place, Hela regained her true nature. She displayed a high level of confidence and assertiveness, often taking charge without providing explanations. She would only reveal her more innocent side when confronted by Naruto. When interacting with others, she consistently displayed an assertive demeanor. Hela, with her commanding presence, exerted immense pressure on Thor. This pressure was more significant than when he confronted Odin. It's not that Hela was more powerful than Odin, but Odin refrained from unleashing his deadly intentions in the same manner. Thor was confident that Hela had a strong desire to eliminate him and was resolute in his belief. Despite Thor's somewhat awkward personality, it cannot be denied that he possessed courage. He was a brave warrior, and he always stood his ground in the face of the enemy. Now that Thor saw Hela as his adversary, he wasted no time in taking action. He skillfully hurled Gungnir from his hand towards Hela. Thor demonstrated exceptional proficiency in accurately hurling his hammer and striking his target. In the past, this technique consistently yielded positive results. Regrettably, Thor was unaware that his adversary possessed superior hammer skills. Hela's mouth curled into a contemptuous smile as she watched Thor's hammer hurtling towards her, brimming with devastating force. As the mighty Thor's hammer hurtled towards her, Hela effortlessly extended her left hand and firmly seized the weapon. Witnessing his hammer faltering in Hela's grip, Thor's eyes widened in astonishment. Thor was completely taken aback by this unexpected scene. He understood that he might not be able to match Hela's skills, but he remained self-assured that he wouldn't be too far behind. Regardless of her strength, he was capable of holding his own in a few rounds. However, the current scene left him utterly stunned. The hammer he threw was successfully caught. It's important to note that Mjolnir, the hammer of Thor, was crafted by the dwarves under Odin's command. It was also graced with the divine power of Odin. Therefore, it was not far behind Gungnir. Even for regular adversaries, let alone wielding Thor's hammer like Hela, it proved to be a formidable challenge to even budget. Even someone as strong as Hulk couldn't lift Thor's hammer. Those who lacked the necessary qualifications were unable to wield Thor's hammer. However, Hela shattered this conventional wisdom. Regarding Hela's character, it's worth noting that she didn't receive any recognition from Thor's hammer, which sets her apart from Captain America. The current scene clearly indicates a single conclusion. Hela relied solely on her own strength to suppress the supernatural power that Odin left inside Thor's hammer. This seems quite challenging. After considering this potential outcome, Thor exclaimed. He found it difficult to fathom that his sister, whom he had never encountered, possessed the power to match Odin. Thor had a deep understanding of Odin's immense power. He realized that he was no match for the current God King. Upon hearing Thor's words, a hint of disdain flickered in Hela's eyes. She was somewhat disappointed by Thor's performance. She was unaware of Odin's teaching methods. He displayed impressive strength, given his stature as a grown adult. Indeed, Odin was quite advanced in age. How adorable. You have no idea what is possible. In the face of Thor's disbelief, Hela responded with a cold demeanor. Then she applied significant pressure with her fingers. She desired to destroy Thor's hammer. Hela had extensive experience with Thor's hammer, as she wielded it as a weapon during her early days. However, Hela had a distinctiveness that set her apart from Thor. She had always been associated with death, rather than being associated with wielding a hammer. Ultimately, Hela saw Mjolnir, the hammer of Thor, as nothing more than a weapon. She had never depended on Thor's hammer, and the reputation she earned was solely a result of her own power. Thor had a unique quality. Despite Mjolnir being intended as a source of assistance, it had also become a burden for him. Thor's overdependence on Mjolnir caused a delay in him discovering his true divine abilities. Thor watched in despair as Hela's fingers exerted pressure, causing faint lines to form on his beloved hammer. This artifact, meticulously crafted by Odin, faced the threat of destruction for the very first time, following a grueling battle and earning a prestigious reputation. Hela displayed no mercy as the power in her left hand continued to grow stronger. Her exceptional physical prowess would easily render this artifact powerless. As Hela's power grew, the fractures on Mjolnir were also growing and spreading. At last, a powerful surge of lightning burst forth from Mjolnir, accompanied by a sorrowful cry. Then Mjolnir shattered and transformed into a heap of scrap iron, collapsing beneath Hela's feet. The handle of Thor's hammer was the only thing that remained intact. After completing all of her tasks, Hela cast a cold, disdainful gaze towards Thor. She was highly pleased with the expression of despair and disbelief on Thor's face. "Are you really called Thor? I believe you are referred to as the god of hammer," Hela said with a ruthless demeanor. Right now, the posture of the gods of death was fully revealed. Observing the scene, Naruto's eyes held a curious expression as he observed Hela. This is the first time he has seen Hela in such a manner. Assertive, composed, resilient, and self-assured. Deserving of the title of the goddess of death, deserving of being my life partner. Regarding Hela's actions, Naruto didn't particularly have a negative opinion of them. First and foremost, Hela was his wife, and everything she did was deemed correct. Naruto himself lacked moral integrity. Furthermore, upon discovering Hela's history, Naruto couldn't help but believe that Hela was capable of going to extreme lengths to conquer Asgard. The reason for this was because Odin and Asgard were not up to standard. Everyone has the capacity for good, but certain circumstances can lead them down a darker path. Hela has achieved this point through her hard work and dedication. Someone must be responsible for it. One could argue that the negative consequences of today were a direct result of Odin and Asgard facing the consequences of their past actions. No one could be held responsible. In addition, Naruto lacked the same level of life experiences as Hela. It was clear that he lacked the necessary expertise to criticize Hela's behavior. People who tried to influence others to be kind without fully grasping the circumstances were truly repulsive. Let's refocus our attention on Hela. Despite shattering Gungnir, Hela remained unfazed, unlike Thor. She approached Thor with a deliberate pace. As Hela extended her hands, two swords materialized in her grasp. She aims to educate Thor, her less intelligent sibling, about the harsh realities of the world. Thor swiftly changed his demeanor. Despite his lack of self-assurance, he remained steadfast. With determination in his eyes, Thor clenched his fists and charged towards Hela. He was a highly skilled warrior, known for his bravery and fearlessness in battle. However, prior to his arrival in Hela, the two swords in Hela's hands were swiftly launched into the air. They swiftly and accurately struck Thor's thigh and shoulder. When faced with Hela, Thor, who had recently gone through the events of Thor 1, displayed a level of immaturity reminiscent of a child. Despite sustaining severe injuries, Thor displayed remarkable resilience by enduring the pain without uttering a sound. His determination was truly admirable, but it was unfortunate that he couldn't improve his physical abilities. Hela approached Thor with a deliberate stride, each step carrying an undeniable weight that bore down on him. However, Thor remained active. After Hela arrived, he firmly clenched his fist and struck towards Hela with determination. Unfortunately, Hela was able to counter his attack. His right hand was tightly immobilized, unable to budge. I am somewhat let down by your lack of strength. Back in my day, I had a lot more strength than you do at your age. Have you ever been compelled to engage in combat on the battlefield by Odin? Then you must be quite unfortunate. Hela confidently manipulated Thor's right arm while overpowering Odin in front of Thor. Thor was also somewhat scared after hearing Hela's words. Was Hela's past filled with the grim task of eliminating adversaries on the battlefield? Prior to Thor comprehending the issue at hand, Hela forcefully gripped his right arm and twisted it with great intensity. Thor's right hand was severely damaged when it collided with a series of bones, courtesy of Hela. Oh no! At this moment, Thor could no longer contain his agony and let out a piercing scream. However, his conversation was abruptly halted by Hela's sudden action of forcefully striking his head against the Rainbow Bridge. During my early years, I had to acquire the skills to navigate the challenges of life and face adversity on a daily basis. You should appreciate the opportunity I've given you to escape this challenging existence. However, this is also a source of sorrow for you. Days that lack challenges have resulted in a lack of strength within you. With a fierce intensity, Hela unleashed her wrath upon Thor, seemingly driven by a deep-seated animosity towards Odin. Thor was defeated, lying on the ground, unable to put up a fight. In Thor's mind, he couldn't help but dwell on Hela's words. His admiration for his father, Odin, was shaken for the first time in his life. He came to the realization that his father, Odin, may not have been the wise and loving king he had always imagined. Hela's existence stood as compelling evidence. It was due to his previous shortcomings in raising Hela that Odin decided to alter his approach to training Thor. Otherwise, if Thor were to endure the same experiences that Hela had suffered, his situation would not be significantly improved compared to Hela's. Nobody was naturally inclined towards killing. Hela was originally a white paper that Odin gradually dyed black. As doubts crept into Thor's mind, Hela continued to mercilessly attack him. With a firm grip on the collar of Thor's battle armor, Hela forcefully lifted him and delivered a powerful blow on the Rainbow Bridge. At this moment, a large sword soared through the air, poised to strike Hela's body. Hela responded promptly. She confidently extended her hand to wield the mighty sword, and then turned her gaze towards the approaching individual. Heimdall was swiftly making his way towards the Rainbow Bridge, accompanied by a group of Asgard soldiers. Observing this situation, Hela chose not to persist in attacking Thor, instead opting to kick him aside. She confidently approached Heimdall and the rest of the group. Hela, currently, flawlessly embodies what was once known as a villain. The atmosphere had a profound effect on everyone present. Unbeknownst to Hela, Thor, despite being severely battered, unleashed a series of electrifying purple bolts from his weary gaze. Thor's dormant power began to resurface, reclaiming its rightful place within him. Thor discovered his true power after a brutal encounter with Hela. Then there was a skilled individual who descended from the sky in Avengers 3 wielding a powerful battle axe. In addition to Hela, the Asgardian fighters under the leadership of Heimdall swiftly engaged in combat with her. Merely depending on these individuals was insufficient to combat Hela. Hela possessed a remarkable ability to claim lives with ease. Accuracy and elegance were the finest expressions of Hela, as if she had a deep appreciation for the art of taking lives. Eventually, the Asgard warriors perished, and each individual was impaled by a sword. Heimdall was the only one facing a difficult time, trying to defend himself against Hela's relentless assault. Without Odin, Asgard posed no threat to Hela whatsoever. "Oh, Heimdall, it's been quite a while since we last met. You're still alive." As Hela relentlessly targeted Heimdall's vulnerable spots, she engaged in conversation with him. With a deep understanding of Odin's ways, Heimdall was familiar with Hela. It was evident that he lacked the ability to match Hela's power. When confronting Hela, Heimdall remained completely focused. He needed to exercise caution, as his life depended on it. Compared to Hela's formidable presence, his weakness seemed insignificant. Now, Heimdall's only hope was for Odin to arrive promptly. Otherwise, his life was truly in jeopardy. At the brink of despair, Heimdall was saved by the arrival of Asgard's most formidable warrior. "Please cease your actions, Hela." The voice was not loud, but it carried across the room. It's as if these words resonated with everyone. Hela paused her actions upon hearing the words. She looked towards the opposite side of the rainbow bridge. Odin held Gungnir, the spear of eternity, and glared angrily at Hela. In addition to Odin, Frigga also gazed at her with a profound sadness in her eyes. "It's time to settle the payment." Hela released Heimdall, who was in imminent danger, and firmly grasped the two swords as she approached Odin. On this occasion, their encounter had a distinct contrast to the previous deceptive encounter. This was a critical moment where the fate of lives hung in the balance. Naruto also caught a glimpse of the genuine Odin for the first time. And truth be told, he didn't find him particularly striking. Odin appeared to be in a state of advanced age and displayed signs of physical frailty. His posture displayed a slight curvature in his back. Upon first observation, he appeared to be just like any other elderly individual on the planet. However, it is worth noting that God King Odin, despite his questionable behavior, held absolute power over the 9 realms. As Naruto and Odin locked eyes, a silent understanding passed between them. Upon realizing that Naruto was the individual who had brought him great humiliation, Odin's single eye emitted a strong and vengeful aura. It was clear that Naruto was the person Odin despised the most. He engaged in a deeply inappropriate and abusive relationship with his own daughter, resorting to physical violence as well. It is quite unfortunate that Naruto's body was shattered into fragments, preventing Odin from taking a single breath. Surprisingly, Naruto had the audacity to show up at Odin's doorstep. Was he easily manipulated as a god king? One could argue that Naruto's mere presence behind Hela was sufficient to provoke Odin's animosity. He was undoubtedly the most disliked individual in the industry. Naruto was taken aback by Odin's intense animosity towards him, despite his lack of any wrongdoing. However, it was inconsequential. He pursued Hela today and personally confronted Odin to resolve their issues. Initially, Odin didn't perceive any animosity from Naruto, and naturally, he didn't form a positive opinion of him. Odin was on the verge of executing him due to his connection with Hela. Naruto was deeply offended by this. Given Odin's previous professional demeanor, Naruto was thoroughly repulsed by Odin's current behavior. Given the circumstances and the hostile intentions directed towards him, Naruto couldn't help but respond in self-defense. One must always be prepared for any potential danger. This was satisfactory. On this occasion, when he arrived in Asgard, Naruto had a strong desire to ensure Hela's safety and prevent any mishaps from occurring. Additionally, he had intentions to address the issue of Odin's threat. Thus, when Odin made his appearance, Naruto had already devised a strategic plan to spring into action. He was prepared to remove the older gentleman's head. Nevertheless, there was an individual who displayed exceptional speed, surpassing even Naruto, Hela. Regarding the individual who desired Odin's demise, Hela undoubtedly held that desire. The animosity between the two individuals was distinct from Naruto's animosity, and it did not arise suddenly or all at once. It was a consequence of Odin's betrayal throughout the years. If there was any chance of Naruto and Odin reconciling, it would be highly unlikely for Hela and Odin to reconcile. In Hela's perspective, Odin's demise is inevitable. Hela, armed with 2 swords, charged towards Odin with incredible speed. Hela's body was consumed by an overwhelming and formidable power of death. Clearly, Odin possessed a strength that surpassed that of Thor and Heimdall, a fact that Hela was well aware of. Thus, when confronted with Odin, Hela would not show any hesitation. She would give it her all, despite having previously utilized her own divine power. When she defeated Thor previously, she didn't exert a significant amount of strength. Odin observed Hela swiftly approaching him. Hela's gaze was filled with a fierce determination towards him, causing a slight pang in his heart. Did he have any regrets? Perhaps. However, now regret served no purpose. Odin understood that acknowledging his error at this point would not lead to Hela's forgiveness. In addition, his sense of superiority as the ruler of all deities prevented him from humbling himself and acknowledging his errors. Thus, Odin brandished the Spear of Eternity and confronted Hela, who had swiftly approached. Currently, despite Odin's advanced age, his response time surpassed that of Hela. With Gungnir firmly grasped, he launched a powerful strike against Hela. Once again, a fierce struggle for survival unfolded between the father and daughter. Some individuals mistakenly believe that Odin's strength was average. However, if you had thoroughly examined Odin's record, you would never make such a statement. He asserted his dominance over the 9 realms, compelling the other gods to acknowledge their subjugation to Asgard. He emerged victorious over Surtur at the height of his power and claimed his eternal fire as his own, storing it in his treasure trove. During an expedition into the universe, Odin, at the height of his power, conquered the majority of the civilizations he encountered. It was crucial that Odin eliminated deities from the Celestial Group. In the past, the Celestial Group had intentions of using the 9 realms for experimentation, but Odin strongly opposed their plans. During that period, Odin engaged in a fierce battle with the ancient gods, donning the formidable destroyer armor and wielding the mighty spear Gungnir. Ultimately, Odin suffered severe injuries, and a number of ancient gods perished. This battle solidified Odin's authority and liberated the 9 realms from being mere pawns in the Celestial Group's experiments. One could argue that Odin achieved his current level of prestige through his own efforts. He was undoubtedly the most influential ruler in Asgard's history. Despite the formidable strength of Hela, she failed to gain any advantage when confronted by Odin. Shortly after the battle commenced, Hela found herself at a disadvantage. Her combat experience gained on the battlefield appeared somewhat inexperienced compared to Odin. Odin had more battles under his belt, which is why he had the upper hand against Hela. Once again, Odin confidently waved the spear Gungnir in his hand, effortlessly knocking Hela away. That formidable force could effortlessly penetrate the mountains. However, Hela was far from being weak. She remains unaffected by an attack of this magnitude. Upon recognizing the limitations of close combat against Odin, Hela decided to alter her approach. A powerful and ominous divine power surged forth from Hela's body in the blink of an eye. This was the immense power of death, causing even the fabric of space to be warped. In addition to this, Hela showcased a vast and impressive world. The realm of the deceased, the realm of mortality. Amidst the realm of the god of death, the echoes of wailing souls filled the air. Unusual creatures made up of different forms of life were struggling to crawl. It's as if ascending from the realm of mortality and entering the majestic realm of the gods. Odin adopted a serious demeanor at this moment. When confronted by Hela's relentless assault, he knew he had to approach the situation with utmost professionalism. Observing Hela, who had assembled her own divine realm, Odin brandished the formidable spear Gungnir in his grasp. A tremendous divine power surged within Gungnir at this very moment. With precision and determination, he launched it towards Hela and the ominous kingdom of death looming in the distance. Gungnir, a powerful spear imbued with Odin's supernatural abilities, appeared to transform into a meteor. With a powerful burst of energy, with a brilliant light that cut through the darkness, it charged towards Hela. Gungnir, also known as the shooting star spear that must be hit, is a legendary weapon. The unstoppable spear in Odin's hands was a lethal weapon that never failed to hit its mark. Hela observed the meteor approaching her with a serious demeanor. She held a sword that possessed an immense power of death. As the divine power reached its peak, Hela let out a powerful cry, swiftly bringing down her sword upon the soaring meteor. A powerful surge of energy transformed into a massive beam of light, radiating a presence that unsettled all beings and struck the soaring meteor. There was a loud noise that resonated through the air. The noise caused many of the Asgardians to instinctively cover their ears, concerned about the potential for deafening volume. Simultaneously, the impact generated a shock wave that propagated outward. The river beneath the Rainbow Bridge was swept up by a powerful shock wave, transforming into massive waves that soared thousands of meters into the sky, hurtling towards Asgard. Given the immense power unleashed during Hela and Odin's battle, the consequences could potentially lead to a catastrophic event with global implications. However, this was Asgard. A formidable barrier miraculously halted the colossal waves, just moments before they could crash into the city-state of Asgard. This was Asgard's protective measure, and it was also the renowned wall of Asgard in mythology. Despite the impact, the movement caused by this event left all onlookers stunned. Many Asgardians who had never witnessed Odin in action finally grasped the true essence of strength. Thor observed the scene from the sidelines, lying on the ground. He harbored a deep sense of resentment. He came to the realization that the disparity between him and Hela was far greater than he had initially understood. When Hela defeated him in a brutal manner previously, she clearly underestimated him and proceeded to forcefully slam him onto the ground. It is not uncommon for younger siblings to experience physical altercations with their older sisters. However, in contrast to others, Naruto displayed a greater focus on the specific details surrounding this collision. Who emerged as the victor in the end, Hela or Odin? Before long, the outcome became visible to all. Hela was taken aback by this collision and ended up falling behind Naruto. Hela's breath had also become less powerful. It is clear that she experienced a significant defeat in this match. Regarding Odin, he gazed down from a lofty vantage point, observing Naruto and Hela below. Once again, the outcome of the battle between Odin and Hela remained unchanged. It is evident that Odin possessed the ability to seal Hela in the past, and it stands to reason that he would be capable of sealing her once again. When it comes to power, the current Hela was no match for Odin. Upon witnessing this scene, the Asgardians let out a collective sigh of relief and erupted into cheers for their revered ruler. Given the immense power of the God King, the Asgardians naturally felt a sense of pride. Meanwhile, following Odin's successful defense against Hela, his gaze fell upon Naruto. Even in Odin's eyes, Naruto was far from being an ordinary mortal. This time, Odin didn't underestimate him, but rather treated Naruto as a formidable opponent. Meanwhile, his determination to defeat Naruto surpassed even that of Hela. Asgard's authority is unquestionable. Those who show disrespect towards the King of Gods shall face dire consequences, Odin said in a stern and authoritative manner, declaring Naruto's demise. Meanwhile, Odin once again raised Gungnir. He aimed the spear at Naruto below. Gungnir, the spear that always hits its mark, transforms into a meteor, piercing through the enemy and reaching deep into their soul. In contrast to the previous battle with Hela, it was clear that Odin approached this fight with a heightened level of seriousness. He skillfully revealed Gungnir's true identity and aimed to eliminate it swiftly. At this moment, the immense divine power of Odin was concentrated in Gungnir, while the power of the land of Asgard beneath his feet responded to the real attack. A magnificent display of infinite power emanated from Asgard, transforming into a mesmerizing array of auroras that gracefully converged into Gungnir. This shot was significantly more terrifying than the previous meteor. The ancient celestial god group perished due to Odin's cunning maneuver. There was no denying that the power of this trick far exceeded anything imaginable and reached an extraordinary realm. The attack had not yet occurred, and Naruto sensed an intense gaze upon him, causing his hair to stand on end. Nevertheless, Naruto had no intention of backing down. He was prepared to take on the formidable task of confronting the sharp spear Gungnir, whose true name had been set free. Right now, Hela suddenly appeared in front of Naruto. She displayed a clear and confident demeanor. She was determined to rescue Naruto from the perilous weapon. Hela was aware of Naruto's impressive strength, yet she remained uncertain of the extent of his power. When confronted with Gungnir's real-name liberation attack, Hela fearlessly positioned herself in front of Naruto. She was determined to safeguard Naruto. Actually, Hela lacked the confidence to block this shot deep down. Yet, standing behind her was the person she cherished above all others. Having gained a deep understanding of Hela's thoughts, Naruto felt a great sense of relief. Having a supportive spouse who is willing to stand by your side, no matter what, is truly fortunate. However, this time, Naruto chose to handle the situation independently. Odin's attack was clearly aimed at him, and there was no way he could retreat. As Naruto confidently confronted Hela, he calmly uttered a single sentence, "Wife, leave it to me." Naruto believed that it was important for a man to not constantly rely on his wife, particularly in this situation. Odin observed the situation between Naruto and Hela. Upon witnessing Hela's unwavering presence before Naruto, despite Odin's anger, he couldn't help but feel a sense of unexpected relief. Hela has acquired the necessary skills to defend herself. Nevertheless, his desire to harm Naruto intensified. Upon witnessing Naruto's encounter with Hela, Odin's hesitation vanished. He skillfully launched the Gungnir. The sharp spear Gungnir had transformed into a radiant light in that moment. The immense power capable of obliterating the entire world was directed towards Naruto. Hela was the only one who questioned whether this attack could be fatal to Naruto. Observing Naruto's back, Hela experienced an unexplainable sense of relief. It was truly comforting to have someone who could provide a sense of security and protect you from any harm. Regarding Naruto, he calmly took a deep breath before raising his right hand into a clenched fist, lifting it gradually. The powerful spear Gungnir was on the verge of striking him with its full force. As the spear threatened to impale Naruto's heart, he swiftly retaliated with a powerful punch, striking the spearhead with precision. The spear's aura collapsed in an instant, unleashing a dazzling array of colors. Naruto's overwhelming power rendered Gungnir, the formidable spear that had claimed numerous lives, unable to make any progress. Even more alarming was that starting from the tip of the spear, numerous delicate cracks started to propagate along the length of the spear. The legendary spear, once thought invincible, was ultimately overpowered by a superior force. Then, its entire body shattered. In addition, Naruto's powerful punch shattered the supposedly indestructible wall of Asgard. The atmosphere above Asgard was divided by a straight line. The sea below was split in two by Naruto's powerful punch. This punch packed an incredibly powerful force. It efficiently identified a central point for Asgard. Quiet. Everyone gazed in awe at Naruto's presence, rendered speechless. It was difficult for the Asgardians to fathom that such a formidable power emanated from such an unassuming physique. Odin also gazed at Naruto, seemingly lost in thought. He no longer possessed the same level of arrogance as before. He had yet to respond, and a feeling of bewilderment filled his heart. "Who am I? Excuse me, could you please tell me my current location? What steps should I take?" Odin's mind was consumed by the three ultimate questions of life. There is no reason to discuss him. Even Hela stared at Naruto with a bewildered expression in that instant. It was difficult for her to comprehend that the man who had just punched the spear was actually her husband. Although Hela was aware of Naruto's impressive strength, she was taken aback by just how incredibly powerful he was. This was truly remarkable. Impressed by the impact he had made, Naruto nodded in approval. He refrained from using his full strength for a specific reason. Otherwise, if he unleashed his full power, the entire realm of Asgard could be obliterated. Nevertheless, he emerged victorious over Odin. At this moment, Odin's overwhelming pride was completely shattered. Examining the fragments of the spear broken by Naruto's powerful punch, Odin's expression turned lifeless as he descended from the sky. This seems incredibly challenging. This is the eternal spear. How could it, despite the occurrence? Odin struggled to come to terms with it. He was astonished by the fact that anyone could crush the legendary Gungnir, the eternal sharp spear. In addition, Naruto, whom he despised and had a strong desire to eliminate, was the one who completely destroyed it. And let's not forget about Odin. Even the Asgardians behind him were overwhelmed with despair at the moment. Even the mighty Odin himself was unable to succeed, and his legendary spear was shattered. Who else has the ability to put a halt to that individual? Is it possible that Asgard, a long-standing presence in the universe, would face destruction today? Unfortunately, no one was able to provide a response to this question as it remained unanswered. At this moment, all Asgardians were overwhelmed with a sense of deep despair and anxiety. Regarding Naruto, he would not be perplexed. He was fully aware of the consequences he had brought upon himself. When Odin was taken aback and unable to respond, he cautiously approached Odin. He had to remove the head of this unpleasant, elderly gentleman for his offensive remarks earlier. I am disappointed that he does not agree with my marriage with Hela, who provided him with the confidence. I am in a committed relationship with Hela. It doesn't matter if Oe came or not. He pondered, but just then, Hela swiftly approached and intercepted Naruto. Allow me. Hela looked at Naruto with a sincere expression. The meaning was clear. She would personally end Odin's life. Naruto pondered the situation and gave his approval. Understood. Furthermore, this was the source of the conflict between Hela and Odin. It was most fitting to allow their father and daughter to resolve it. Hela grinned with satisfaction as Naruto gave his consent. She confidently approached Odin, brandishing the sword in her hand. Ignoring her presence, Odin continued to gaze vacantly at the shattered eternal spear. He had struggled to come to terms with the reality until this point, and it proved challenging for him to acknowledge his lack of success, because Naruto's punch not only shattered Gungnir, but also humbled him in the process. Odin, an experienced traveler of the universe for countless years, found his pride wounded for the very first time. It was expected that he would struggle to accept this setback. Unaware of Hela's presence, he failed to notice the goddess of death drawing near. Nevertheless, as Hela approached Odin, Queen Frigga bravely positioned herself in front of Hela. Enough, child. Frigga pleaded in that instant, gazing at Hela. Despite her strong displeasure with Odin's numerous habits, she couldn't deny the fact that he was her longtime spouse. How was it possible for Frigga to witness Odin's demise? Nevertheless, Hela appeared resolute and declined. She couldn't bear to part with Odin, just as Odin refused to let her go. Regardless of any intervention from Frigga, Hela remains resolute in her decision. Please move aside. I won't hesitate to eliminate you. Hela spoke with a detached demeanor as she observed Frigga standing before her. There was no denying that Frigga showed kindness towards her. But what's the significance? Did she ultimately witness her upbringing by Odin, shaping her into who she is today? If only Frigga had the strength to intervene and catch her when she fell into the abyss, preventing Odin from continuing. Is this still happening in the present day? At times, failing to intervene and allowing evil to persist can be seen as a form of wrongdoing. Please, allow your father to be released. He is responsible, but it would be inappropriate to harm him. You will be well known. Frigga remained steadfast in her refusal. She extended her arms to obstruct Hela. She couldn't bear to witness her daughter commit such a heinous act in front of her. She was determined to put an end to Hela's actions, no matter what. This was for Odin and Hela. If Hela were responsible for Odin's demise, she would be burdened with the reputation of patricide. Nevertheless, despite Frigga's intervention, Hela's gaze remained resolute. The intense desire to harm had already been unleashed and could not be restrained. Please move aside immediately, or there will be serious consequences for both of you, Hela said in a detached manner, observing Frigga, who remained resolute in her defiance. This sentence tested her final ounce of patience. Frigga shook her head in disapproval. She remained composed despite the tears streaming down her face. She remained steadfast and refused to back down. At this moment, Odin regained his strength and witnessed Frigga standing before Hela. Odin's face broke into a wry smile. "Frigga, please release me. This is our business." Odin rose from the ground and then spoke with fatigue. Frigga glanced over and noticed Odin's determined gaze. Just as in the past, he completely disregarded her opinions. Frigga attempted to express herself, but Odin's tolerance was limited. His immense power enveloped Frigga, halting her from remaining in Hela's presence. Hela confidently approached Frigga and made her way towards Odin. Finally, she came to a halt in front of Odin. "I emerged victorious." Hela informed Odin that she did not immediately kill him. Odin acknowledged with a nod. There was a hint of reluctance on his face. He was definitely not willing. It's surprising that he was defeated by a mere mortal. Nevertheless, considering it at this moment seemed impractical. "You bear a striking resemblance to me. Even what you do is exactly the same." Out of nowhere, Odin addressed Hela. The previous animosity had vanished from his gaze. Instead, they felt a sense of relief. Regarding his statement, it naturally pertained to rebellion and the assassination of the former king. Isn't what Hela is currently doing reminiscent of Odin's past actions? There was a notable distinction in the actions of Hela and Odin. While Hela was responsible for her father's demise, Odin took the life of his own brother. "You have been instrumental in shaping who I have become today. If you want to hold someone accountable, the responsibility lies solely with you." Hela refrained from swiftly eliminating Odin. Odin, lacking his weapon, was as ineffective as a weakling. He couldn't possibly be her adversary. That's why Hela was open to having a conversation with Odin at this particular moment. If it were possible, Hela desired to hear Odin express remorse for his actions. "I have no regrets about my decision, as it resulted in a contented successor. Do you have any knowledge? When I witnessed your presence before that mortal, it became clear to me that you are my most capable successor. The king cannot simply take lives. He should also prioritize the safety and well-being of the citizens. You finally grasped this reality." Odin smiled, feeling a sense of relief, and spoke in a deliberate manner. He engaged in numerous actions that he deeply regretted towards Hela, and there were several things that he now struggled to forgive himself for. However, in this particular moment, as Odin gazed upon Hela's presence before him, he couldn't help but acknowledge that the outcome was rather satisfactory. If Asgard were to be led by Hela in the future, one could have complete confidence in her leadership. "What is the purpose of these? I will still eliminate you." Hela's determination remained unwavering despite Odin's words. His words were completely ineffective. Today is the day Odin must meet his end. Odin was aware of his impending demise. In addition, his own deadline was fast approaching. There was truly nothing to regret. "Come on, my dear, defeat me, and you shall assume the mantle of the ruler of Asgard henceforth. You were acknowledged by Asgard, and even by Odin himself." Odin did not put up a fight. Instead, he willingly relinquished the position of his god-king to Hela. Not everyone may grasp Odin's reasoning behind this, but Frigga comprehended it. Odin was seeking to make amends and repay for his actions towards Hela in the past. However, animosity played no role in the role of the king of gods. Hela possessed the remarkable potential to ascend to the position of ruler among the gods, and had the power to greatly enhance the state of Asgard. Odin was assured of this. This is why Odin decided to pass on his throne to Hela. He was in search of a skilled ruler for his kingdom of Asgard. Hela also recognized this truth, but that didn't justify forgiving Odin. Upon hearing Odin's words, Hela raised the sword in her hand, ready to strike Odin's heart. At this moment, a highly skilled individual swiftly emerged from behind. "Stop, challenge me if you seek retribution. Come eliminate me." The individual who arrived was Thor, and based on his appearance, it was evident that he had fully tapped into his innate abilities. Witnessing Hela's imminent attack on Odin, Thor instinctively leaped into action to thwart her. Due to Thor's involvement, Hela's actions temporarily came to a halt. Odin opened his eyes once more and glanced at Thor, who was approaching. "My child, I am impressed by your courage. However, it would be unwise to prevent her from doing so. I take full responsibility for this. I will personally repay it. Furthermore, I sincerely hope that you can let go of any animosity, prioritize the well-being of your mother, and find true happiness in life." Odin casually mentioned to Thor, seemingly unconcerned about his impending demise. He felt a great sense of relief. Then he glanced at Frigga once more. "After I pass away, you will assist Hela effectively. Your relationship with her has always been positive and strong. By the way, please ensure that Thor is well taken care of and prevent him from engaging in any foolish behavior." Once everything was explained, Odin's concerns were alleviated. He shut his eyes and anticipated the end. Hela acted without hesitation. With precision and skill, she firmly grasped the sword and swiftly struck Odin's chest. As Odin mentioned, he will have to face the consequences of his actions. Despite Odin's eventual remorse, Hela remained unable to forgive him. After successfully defeating Odin, Hela found herself unsatisfied. Instead, she experienced a sense of emptiness. At this moment, Thor couldn't resist any longer. He was on the verge of charging at Hela, with his body crackling with thunder and lightning. Frigga managed to escape Odin's imprisonment using her incredible divine power and successfully halted Thor in his tracks. "Thor, please refrain from doing that." Observing Thor, whose expression was filled with sorrow and animosity, Frigga spoke with a raised voice. Then Frigga shifted her gaze towards Hela. "This is his personal decision, and I won't hold you responsible. I sincerely hope that you will eventually achieve greatness, just as he predicted." Odin had passed away. Frigga was feeling quite down. It was evident to anyone. However, there was no reason to hold any resentment towards Hela, as this situation solely revolved around settling debts. Ultimately, Odin faced the consequences for his actions. However, he also nurtured a successor who surpassed his own strength. Hela remained silent. She approached Naruto and firmly took hold of his hand. Initially, Hela believed that upon ascending to the throne of the gods, she would experience great excitement and happiness. However, in this particular moment, she couldn't help but feel a sense of emptiness within her heart. It can be quite disorienting when you're unsure of what to do after achieving your goal. Naruto offered a comforting embrace to Hela, providing solace in his silence. After some time, Frigga emerged from her sorrow and utilized her divine abilities to address the entire Asgardian community. "From today, Hela shall ascend to the throne of Asgard. She is a highly respected and esteemed member of Odin's family, chosen by Odin himself to be the rightful heir and leader of our entire community." Later, Frigga approached Hela and gently took her hand, leading her towards Asgard. Regarding Odin, Thor embraced his lifeless form and trailed behind. As Hela approached Asgard, the Asgardians grew increasingly uneasy. They were astounded by the prospect of someone so opposed to Asgard ascending to the position of their ruler. Nevertheless, Queen Frigga personally recognized Hela's status. That's what the queen said. Regarding Hela's connection to Odin's family, the Asgardians had their doubts as well. However, there should be no deception. Otherwise, it would be challenging for Frigga to determine Hela's status. So, was there a new king? Several Asgardians were uncertain. Indeed, the previous battle between Hela and Odin remained fresh in everyone's memory. Nevertheless, as Hela and Frigga strolled side by side, a few astute individuals had already discerned Hela's true identity. What could be the reason behind Queen Frigga's deception? Eventually, someone had the honor of being the first to kneel before Hela. As more individuals stepped up, the number of such individuals continued to grow. They acknowledged the identity of Hela and understood that they would eventually embody the essence of Hela. Upon witnessing this scene, a smile finally graced the corner of Hela's mouth. This was everything she had always dreamed of. She believed that she deserved to be the ruler of Asgard, the ultimate authority. Finally, the dream had become a reality. Accompanied by Queen Frigga, Hela gracefully made her way towards the people of Asgard. Hela was crowned king, receiving the adoration of countless people. Despite encountering various challenges along the way, the end result was satisfactory. Hela accomplished her long-held aspiration and triumphantly donned the crown. After that, she assumed a new identity as the God King Hela, leaving behind her former role as the goddess of death. On the day following her official proclamation and the embrace of Asgardian devotion, Hela sought out Naruto and led him to a particular location. This was a collection of valuable items, carefully curated by Odin throughout the years. I will introduce you to a few individuals, Hela said to Naruto, and then led him into the treasure house. Throughout the journey, Naruto found the treasury to be a truly enlightening experience. He encountered numerous valuable artifacts. For example, infinity gloves, even though they were imitations. For instance, the spears wielded by the legendary heroes of Asgard gleamed with a brilliant, icy radiance. There was also an everlasting flame. As Hela passed by the eternal fire, she confidently grasped a handful of the fiery embers and continued her descent into the depths. Upon reaching an unoccupied floor, Hela ceased her movement. She skillfully summoned the sword, effortlessly transforming it into the form of a hammer, and expertly brought it down with great force. A significant pit materialized in front of the two. "We should go down and take a look," Hela said to Naruto, and then held Naruto's hand, leading him into the hole. Stay tuned for more. And that's a wrap, folks. Thank you so much for tuning into this video. If you enjoyed it, I appreciate your support. Don't forget to like, share, and subscribe for more content. Looking forward to seeing you in the next video.